I'm starting to think that maybe I should stop licking my brushes. Look. It's so delicious though. Hello fellows of the blue and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to another painting tutorial. And in this video I'm going to show you how you can paint glowing details of 3 different types and in 3 different colors. Green, blue and pink. So let's get cracking. As you can see, we have here the metal on the sword completely painted, and this was painted in the same way that I did in my TMM sword video. You can see it in top right corner right now appearing, so click there if you haven't seen it. It's a very simple paint job. And for our first step for our glowing runes, I'm going to start with the actual glow itself, and I'm going to do a blue glow because, well, high elves. And the only thing you have to have in mind is we want a darker deposit of wash around all the runes. And for the first step I'm going to take Zotic Green, which I'm going to thin down to a glaze consistency. So something very thin, you can see how thin that is there. And I'm going to apply this surrounding the runes. This will be kind of our wider glow, so depending how much of this you apply, the runes will be appearing as projecting more or less glow. We have a very constricted space here, so I'm concentrating this obviously more towards the center of the sword, because, well, that's the only space we have really. These swords are tiny. Try not to get this into the recesses between the runes and the blade, because we want that as dark as possible. You will see why later, but yeah, something like this. Some kind of blue glow starting forming there. Our initial glazing with Zotic Green is now done, and I'm going to move into Temper Gold Blue, and I'm going to thin it down to exactly the same consistency, so you will see it here, something like that, very very thin. And I'm going to apply this, but more concentrated towards the runes themselves. We will have to build this with layers, of course, but we basically want like an outline of this all around our runes, but not in the crevice, not where the runes meet the body of the sword. If you get paint into that crevice, don't worry too much, we can correct it later. That's why we start with the glow and not with the runes, so we can correct later, don't be that concerned. But if you save yourself some work, well, that's always nice. Okay, so I kind of messed that up there, because I forgot to hit record apparently. So I'm going to try to showcase what I just did again, just for you to see. So I'm taking a mix of 2 parts Temper Gold Blue and 1 part white. I have it thinned down to this sort of consistency, and I'm going to apply this towards the very most center points of the blade. Or here where we have like deep curves inside the runes. Just like that. So there is already a layer of that applied, so you can see it there. But I was going to apply a second layer anyway, just to build up the glow, so it's not like lost work, but I forgot, I just messed up the first recording. So if you made any mistakes and you don't have that dark outline surrounding all the runes, you can just take a tiny bit of Incubi Darkness and you can just run this as an outline around the runes, something like that. Be very careful. It's not a problem if you paint over the runes, so if you feel safer, just go over the runes and just let that Incubi Darkness fall into that recess. Don't worry, because we are going to paint over the runes now, so that's why I chose this order now. So this now looks weird because the glowing runes are dark, doesn't look right, but we're going to solve that now. So we're going to take pure white and I'm just going to paint the runes themselves. Be very careful, just touch the runes and not anything else. So we have our runes base coated with pure white, and we're going back to tempered dark blue. Again, thin down to this sort of consistency right there. And I'm going to apply this on the ends of the runes. So I'm going to try to leave the middle part of the rune white and just glaze this over the extremes of the runes, basically. And now for our final step, we're going to go back into white, and I'm just going to thin it down. We need the white thin here. You can see that, well, it's not transparent because it's white, but it flows nicely. And I'm going to apply this to the very center of each rune to reinforce that whiteness. And I'm going to place a dot of this at the corner of each rune like that. Just like that. And then very small dots on the corners. And with that final step, our glowing runes are finished, and now we're going to move into another type of runes or recesses that could be glowing, which instead of being protruding are going into the surface. So for another type of glowing details, this will be indented glowing details, but ones that are big enough so we can actually paint inside, because we will see later on others that are a bit too small, and I will show you a little trick that will simulate a glow. For this kind of detail, we're going to start with pure white. I'm just going to try to paint the inside of those details white. Also, while you're doing that, catch a bit of the edge. Just like that. You will probably need to do a couple layers of this because, you know, white over black, but it's doable. With those white recesses now dry, I'm going to take, this is a mix of about 2 parts fluorescent green and 1 part black green ink. If you're having issues with your fluorescent paints, first of all, they are usually a bit too bright, so mixing inks into them makes them flow better. And on top of that, we darken those very intense colors a bit, creating a better experience overall with them. And I'm going to thin this mix down into a sort of wash consistency. You can see I have a lot of paint in my brush, and I'm going to put this down into the crevices. Just like that. And once that paint is there, I'm going to absorb any excess. It's just easier to do it this way. I did a second layer of that mix into the crevices, and now I'm going to take this same mix and I'm going to thin it down into a glaze consistency. You know, something like that. And I'm going to glaze it around the vents. I will probably do 3 or 4 coats of this, getting closer and closer to the actual vent each time, to create a sort of glow coming from them. With those rounds of glazing now finished, I did about 4 of them, just to get like this hard white edge to be a little bit diffused. I'm going to take a mix of 2 parts black-green ink and about 1 part fluorescent green, and I'm going to try and place this in the inside of the vents just all around. just like that. If you feel like too much paint went someplace, like for example here, you can always clean your brush and absorb the excess. With that done, I'm now going to finish by increasing the glow itself, and for this I'm going to take about a 1-to-1 mix of fluorescent green and dawn yellow. This will make like for a very, very bright green, and I'm going to place this just in the middle of these sections. And now to finish off this effect, I'm going to take pure white and I'm just going to paint just the very center. And with that last step done, our glowing recesses are finished, and I think they look really good. I really like this effect, but if you want to paint small recesses that may not be suitable for this technique, I have a nifty trick for you in the next section. So for the third set of glowing details, we have these runes here. I'm going to demonstrate it with those. I think it's a good example. And you can go the same route as we did before, but it's a bit too small and we can't leave that nice dark outline that makes the glow like really intense and well defined. But I'm going to show you another different method, another trick to kind of simulate glow without having a real glow. So we are going to take again pure white, and I'm just going to paint the outline and just basically going to edge highlight these runes. It's going to be a very gnarly edge highlight, of course. And now to simulate the glow, we're going to take a 2-to-1 mix of fluorescent magenta and game ink violet, and I'm going to thin this down into a glaze consistency. This is very thin by nature, but we're going to thin it down so we can have the smoothest application possible. And I'm just going to glaze this from the outside of each rune into the glow itself. With that glow established, I did about 3 passes. I'm going to start making that glow more intense, and for this I'm going to take, this is not an exact measurement, but this is about 3 or 4 parts of fluorescent magenta and 1 part white. I'm going to take this super bright pink paint and just going to try and pick up the very edges of these symbols. You can see that I drop a little bit of that paint into where I don't want it, so I'm going to go back to my black and I'm going to redefine all those little mistakes. Now for the final step in this glow, I'm going to take pure white and then just basically going to pick up very small dots of this, just in the very corners. So where we applied our mix of white and magenta fluorescent, I'm just going to reinforce this. And with that last step done, this little detail is finished, and it's not a perfect glow. It's not like doesn't look like the runes are really glowing, but it simulates it. I think it does a very good job, especially if you find it very difficult to do that kind of very intricate glow on the inside. So I think this is a good compromise. But you can choose to do the previous method if you want. It also works very well. So with that done, we have here our 3 examples of glowing details that you can apply to all your minis, and we'll have you sorted for any kind of glowing details you may find in your minis. So I really hope you enjoy this one, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Do you like my videos and want to help me make them? Well, there are several ways you can do that. You can follow me on social media. You have the links to all my social media in the description below. You can also check all my affiliate links in the pinned comment of this video. Use those links in your next hobby purchase and help me without any additional cost to you. I finally have a link for the brushes that I use down there. Don't forget to check the merch that you can see just below this video in the shop tab of my channel, but most importantly, there is Patreon and channel members. You have the link to my Patreon in the description below in the pinned comment of the video. If you prefer, you can just click the join button below this video. Patreon and channel members help me do all the cool projects that I want to make and help me improve the quality of my videos. Don't be afraid. No content will ever be hidden behind a paywall, but it's a nice way to help me. You will get something back for generosity. As said, guys, thank you very much for watching. A special thank you to Heather Amster, Lauren Sigismundi, Nicholas Fornell, Brian Bledsoe, Terrinosaur, Christopher Moret, Javi Mota, Kim Anderson, Michael Boye, Telva Miniatures, Thomas Ustergaard, Veldrain, Victor Domena, Equitas, Arundel, Brent Wood, Carlos Rivera, Charles Amintas, Chris Fivey, Kieran Mulfeld, Darius Farrar, Dr. V, Garrett Smith, G4, Jamie Milligan, Josh Simpson, Jetty Butler, Kevin Mia and Kevin Sulars, Leonard Lindemann, Mark Baker, Mark Jarvis, Natius Maximus, One Brushstroke Better, Oscar Jonathan Thornberg, Samuel, Sasha Park and Tasted for being the coolest persons in the planet. Be like these fine folks on my Patreon and take control.